very nice also.
Okay.
So I remember in our last class, we talked about introduction to economics, right? So whereby we mentioned a lot of stuffs. I gave you the definition of economics and the scope of economics. So under the scope of economics, I said it is divided into two. We have the microeconomics, then we have the what? The macroeconomics. So both of them, there are two, branches of economics. So there is one that deals with decision making at the individual economic, at the individual level. Let me just put it like that. So the individual level, I mean, is talking about I told you in the last class, I said we have three agents of economy. So the first one is the individual, right? And I also talked about the firm, then also the government. So these are the three agents that are in charge of, as far as economics is concerned. So then under the macroeconomics, I said it deals with economy as a whole. Do you understand? So it looks like look at economy as a whole. So instead of trying to understand what determines the output of single firm or industry or the consumption pattern of single household or group of households. So it's try to look at it from this general perspective. So there is a part of there's a part of economic scopes that try to study economy from the from the aspect of the individual. So, and there's another one that tried to study the economy from as a whole, like it's look at it as a whole. Do you get it? And also I remember we talked about several people, several scholars that define economics. Then we talk about the basic concept also. Then I remember also, explain the method of economic analysis, which are the positive and the normative. I said the positive, attempts to understand the behavior and the operation of economic system with making judgment about whether the outcome are good or bad. Am I right? Are you there, ma? Then, hello? Okay, so then I also said the other one, which is the normative.
Yes, I'm here, please. You can continue.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay, then I said that the normative economy, try to study economy by coming from the aspect of what is ought to be. On the other hand, it's look at the outcome of economic behavior and ask whether they are appropriate or not, and whether they could be made better. You get whether they could be made better. And it's also involved judgment and prescriptions of what actions. Then, so these are the major stuffs, the important stuffs we talked about. Then we also talk about, the economic system, right? Such that we talked about if I remember, we talked about the the capitalist as a part of the economic system. We talk about the socialists, and we talk about the mixed economy system. Then I also talked about the pitfalls. Are you there? So we also talk about, like some pitfall, which are also called the shortcoming when it comes to decision making. I remember I mentioned pitfall of measuring cost / benefits proportionately. Then I also talked about, the pitfall of ignoring opportunity cost. Then also I talk about the pitfall of average cost or the marginal cost. Do you understand? Then I same way explain the comparative and the absolute advantages using various examples. Like under the absolute advantage, we consider what Adam Smith said. Adam Smith said that a person, firm, or country is said to have an absolute advantage over another individual, person, firm, or country if they take fewer resources to perform a given task. Then we checked, we look at one example, considering Nigeria and America. Do you get it? Then we also talked about the comparative. So under the comparative, we made mention of, the perspective, of David Ricardo. Yeah, David Ricardo. So, which said that, for a country to have an comparative advantage, so over another country, so such country must have a lower opportunity cost in performing a specific tax. Do you get it now? So these are the basic things we really talked about. Wow. So today we are going to be moving on to the theory of demand and supply, like theory, price theory, then which has to do with I'm very sure. Do you have a material for economics, right? So you can unmute yourself. So do you have a material? So under the material, if I can, who has the material? Anybody? Who has the material? Okay. Ma?
I do. I have the material.
Okay. Can you send it to me? I just, this kind of material I'm using, I don't know if it really follows suit.
Okay.
Do you have the PDF or the?
I think it should be in PDF. It should be in PDF. Let me check.
Okay, if you have it in PDF, just send it to my DM so I'll be able to teach. Some
Okay,
of
I might send your number or I don't know.
send it to my number. Just send it to my DM directly. I'll pick it up in class. So, but
Okay.
let's work with what I'm having on my phone. So I'm so sure that the next topic on the what's it called? The content. Your syllabus is price theory. So under price theory, we are going to talk about supply and demand, and also we are going to talk about of supply and the elasticity.
Can I send it to the group chat? To the group?
Yeah, just send it to the group chat then, rather.
Okay.
I'll pick it there. So we have elasticity of demand, then we also have the elasticity of supply. So, but for now, there are two different concepts, and I don't really want us because supply and demand or demand and supply. Okay, thank you. I've seen it. Thank you. So supply and demand happens to be one of the major concepts you have to understand as far as economics is concerned. So let's go to what are the basic notion of supply and demand? Supply and demand is a model for understanding the determination of price, of quantity of a good sold on the market. Then the explanation works by looking at two different groups, which is the buyers and the seller, and asking how they interact. In secondary school, I don't know, they define market as an interaction, or let me say market is a place where both the buyers and the seller meet to interact, right? So what are they interacting? So they are selling, the buyers will come, they will buy, and the seller will come, they will sell. You understand? So meaning that without one cannot function. Without someone to buy, there won't be someone to sell. So without someone to sell, there won't be someone to buy. So there's always this, these forms of interaction between, the demand and the supply. So there's not how you talk about demand. You just feel like, okay, that's all. So you still have to explain supply. So both of them are different concepts, but are meant to be taken together. Do you understand? Because they are modeled for understanding how markets is being determined. Do you get it now? Like when I was trying to define a kind of economics in our last class, I said it's like a social science that studies the human behavior. So what aspect of human behavior does it study? The aspect of human behavior that has to do with what ends and scarce. Do you understand? So there's also a part of, social science that study how human behavior interacts, what's it called? What science cannot explain. So let's take, for instance, now if you get to the market and you discover that the price of goods has, increased from what you used to buy to what it is now, there will be a kind of reaction. Do you understand now? So it's going to make you feel somehow. It's going to make you feel bad, because what happened? You have a budget, you have a plan. So you might not be able to meet up with the budget and the plan as a result of what? Increase in price of what? Goods. Do you understand? So more reason why you have to understand how both of them work. Do you understand? So in this case here, I'm not going to take them as a subject. I will not take supply and demand as a subject, but I will take them as a theory, because talking about the theory of demand is talking about the theory of demand. So it also has its determinants. Now, let's say, for instance, I don't know, I might not be using this notes because I really, really want to give you, but have you downloaded the notes, right? Are we there?
Yes.
Okay, so talking about both of them. So there's a concept, like, and the concept is, we normally say that, this is quantity demand of commodity X, which is a function of price of X, price of Y. We have what we call the tax. We have what we call the income. We have what we call expectation. Then, do you understand now? So this is how the determinant is. So these are what determines the quantity demand of commodity X. So such that the relationship between, such that each of them has a relationship with demand. So I can say that the relationship between demand and its determinants. So do you understand now? So what are the determinants here? So these are the determinants, meaning I can say that the quantity demand of commodity X is a function of price of commodity X, price of related commodity, which is PY. It is function to T, which is taste, function to Y, which is income, and function to what? Expectation. Another thing is cost of goods sold. We have technology, we have weather, so on and so forth. Do you understand? Then for the QDS, I can say the QDS is a quantity demand of commodity X, or quantity of commodity X. Then PX is price of X, commodity X. Then PY is price of related commodity. T is taste. Y is income, and A is what? Expectation. Do you understand? So, but there is, for you to understand that theory better, there's something you have to be able to explain, which is the law of demand that focus on the relationship between prices and what? And quantity demand. Are you following what I'm saying now? So there's a law that backs all of this up. So such that if you have to check the relationship between, your quantity demand and price of, commodity X, you have to hold every other, determinant that can affect quantity demand constant. Why? Because the reason why you are holding them constant is basically because you want to check the relationship between quantity demand of X, commodity X, and the price of commodity X. Are you following? Are we following?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, can I ask a question? I thought you were discussing about the theory part.
Yeah, I'm discussing about the theory parts.
But if I according to the textbook, this is like more of the formulas. I didn't say this one's first. We're talking about the law of demand, law of supply, those things first. So, but
Yeah, man, if you want to explain better, the reason why you have a tutor, are you getting it?
yeah,
Is basically to, I think there are some of these things that you might not really find in your material. In fact, just like
okay.
I think talking to one of a colleague that also wants to write CIT, and I said sometimes that's why you need to join classes. Do you get what I'm saying? Because in fact, it has always been like that, that even in school, lecturer will give you handouts, and some of what they will set in the question might be part of what they discuss in class. In fact, I've not seen the material, but just hold on, let me try to download how the material looks like. But what I've seen is the scheme of work or the course content. So I've not seen the material. So most times the material might not be, the yardstick. So I think it's just going to be a guide. Are you following now? So it's going to be a guide. Just sorry, my message is trying to load because
Okay, thank you.
just to do. Okay, is that your question? Like this is actually different from what you have.
Yes. I'm not saying it's different, but I'm not really I'm still on demand and supply. But you just went straight to the calculation or so. But according to the textbook, which I was reading, there's like the theoretical part of it about supply, demand, saying those the laws and the diagram, the graphical part of it. I think that was how the textbook run. So
okay, I think if talking about the definition now with this everything, I mean this is just the theoretical part of it. I said if you really want to understand demand, don't go. There's a difference between the concepts. So the concept of demand only explains definitions. Are you following?
okay, I am.
What's it called? The laws. But the theory, this is the theory. So the theory is, the theory tries to delve into, the theoretical part of it by explaining determinants, explaining what else? Explaining the relationship, using graphs, and using mathematical concept and all of that. But notwithstanding, let me just check the material. So I won't be teaching part of what you have in the material. Do you get what I'm saying now? But I'm sure everything I've taught here is going to be in the material. So the only thing I could have done is by starting from the definition. And what is definition of demand? Demand is the willingness and the what? So yeah, someone should define it now. Demand is the willingness and the ability
to pay. Is it to buy or to
the
pay?
consumer is willing to pay
at a particular time.
Do you
get what I'm saying? Price. Yes.
And at a particular price. Do you understand now? So that is demand. I remember in the last class I said that what makes it demand is because there's a willingness to pay. Do you understand? If you remember, I was trying to differentiate between wants and need, right? I said wants is ineffective. And why is it ineffective? Why is it ineffective? Somebody there? Hello?
I'm trying to use get a particular word in my head. So I don't know if somebody else can help. So but I know need is something that we can do away with without. Like we need that in that moment. Want is like it's like I can get this at that time. Sorry, I can't get the particular word in my brain. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, the difference between want and need is that need has to do with what? Like need has to do with your immediate, the things you need immediately. Let's say, for instance, you are hungry, you want to eat. When someone is hungry, that means you need to eat. Do you understand? So there's nothing they can say until when you eat. Do you get what I'm saying now? So we have a lot of things that are very urgent, like food, shelter, and all of that. So those are our needs. So, and I said for it to be a need, that means it has to be effective. So as far as there is a willingness and there's ability, so the willingness is you have an interest. Let's say, for instance, now you are going out, you saw a beautiful shirt, and you know that you always want to buy the shirt. So the willingness is your interest, you pick. in that shirt. Are you following what I'm saying now? But that ability is the money. Are you following what I'm saying now? So the ability there is the money. So it's not if you are just willing alone, if it is just a willingness and you don't have the ability to buy that commodity, it's not yet a demand. And what part of demand? It is not yet effective demand. You know, I told you we have ineffective and effective demand. So what is called ineffective demand? So far, there is not ability. So, you know, we said demand is the willingness and the ability that a consumer have to what? To pay for a particular use at a particular place with a particular price. Do you understand that? At a particular price in a particular what? Place. So those are the major concept, the major key rather, that your definitions must carry. Are you following what I'm saying now? So what makes it to be effective demand is because there's a willingness and there's a what? There's ability. Do you understand? So, and if you are talking about the you know, the examples of effective demand, there's now you talk about the effective examples of effective demand, that you are not going to talk about demand itself and you talk about need. Do you understand? Because demand itself is a flow. You know, in economics, we have something called variable, and we say variable is anything whose magnitude changes over time. Types of variable, we have flow. So when you say something is flow, that means it is what? It has time dimension. So do you understand that? So the reason why demand is a flow variable is basically because it has a time dimension. So it has to be at a particular time. Do you understand now? You get it? So that means it is a flow variable because its value of at a particular given point in time. You understand what I'm saying now? So that's that about that. So that's the definition of you know, of the demand. So, and like I said demand is a flow variable because it has a time dimension. You understand? So whatever stuff that has a time dimension, so it becomes a what? A flow variable. Are you following what I'm saying? Sorry, the message is still trying to load. It's been a while I've come online. So let me just. So I want to use what is there in the material. So any other question before we get to work? Another question? Don't worry, I will, whatever question is it, I will answer. So feel free. If you have any other question, that's, you know. No more question, right? No question, right?
For now. For now.
All right. Let's continue. Just hold on. I want the stuff to load. Right there. Sorry. Okay, which group did you send it to? The general group, right? Eh? Which group did you send it to? Which group did you send it to? Is it the general group page?
Yes, general group page. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, I've seen it. It's loading. Okay, are we there? So firstly, they talked about the price system. So under the price system, price system is also known as price mechanism. And it's just like the way through which the monetary value of goods and services or factors of production is determined by the interaction of the forces of demand and supply. So it is the one of the system that efficiently allocates the scarce resources in the economy among the alternative uses. So and helps to solve the economic problems of what to produce, how to produce, and from whom to produce. So under the price system, price system helps the entrepreneur to make necessary decisions concerning production, distribution of goods and services, and it's also motivates market participants to produce goods and develop those skills that are highly desired by others. So then it also helps to determine what to produce, how to produce, and all of that. So let's go to the theory of demand. The theory of demand emphasizes how the consumer or buyer are influenced by certain factors in which, in buying given quantity of goods and services and their responses when those factors changes. It's part of what I was trying to explain and what I meant by the determinant. So the term demand can be simply defined as the quantity of goods and services which a consumer is willing and ready to buy. Can you see? So apart from the willing, so the readiness there is talking about the ability to pay. So to buy at a particular price and at a given period of time. So it refers to the whole set of price quantity combination. In other words, demand is said to be desired backed up with purchasing power. Can you see in brackets, ability to pay? So at a given price, at a given period of time. So demand is different from wants, which is a mere desire to have particular commodity at a given. So I think I've said all of this before. Then we have the law of demand. So what is the law of demand? The law of demand states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, and the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. So in this case, it's telling us that there's a negative relationship, inverse. If you look at it now, the slope of your graph is downward sloping. So here we have our quantity, then here we have our what? The price. So meaning there's a negative relationship between the price of the commodity and its quantity, such that if the price of a commodity X, let's say for instance, increases, what will happen to the quantity demand for commodity X? The quantity demand for commodity X, we fall. So the law of demand establishes an inverse relationship between the quantity demand of a normal commodity and its price at a given period of time. So the law of demand also states, I said it earlier, when price comes up, demand will fall. Then when price falls, demand will rise. So which tells us that, a rising one will lead to fall in another. Do you understand now? So it explains that there's an inverse relationship. What do I mean by inverse? A negative relationship between, the quantity demand and the what? And the price when it comes to demand. So the next one here, we have demand schedule and demand curve. So the demand schedule is just like a table that is showing the quantity of a particular commodity that will be brought at different prices. So why demand curve is a graphical representation of demand schedule. Do you understand now? So demand curve, demand schedule there is just like a table that shows a table. It's a table. So there's a part for the price of a commodity, and the other part states the quantity demand of that same commodity. Do you understand now? So it's just like a table that have price and the amount of goods that is being, that is being demanded for. Do you understand? I mean, the quantity of goods that is being what? Demanded for. So why the curve there, the demand curve, is just like a graphical representation that the graphical representation of the demand schedule. Do you understand now? So, and both the demand schedule and demand curve are drawn under the assumption of what? Ceteris paribus. So what do I mean by ceteris paribus? What is ceteris paribus? Ceteris paribus means that all other things being equal. Do you understand? All other things being equal. So then we have different types of demand schedule and demand there. We have the individual demand and market demand, both schedule and what? And curve. So when we talk about the individual demand is the quantity of a good or service which an individual consumer is willing and able to buy at different prices at different times. So why market demand, on the other hand, is the sum of the various quantity of goods and services which all the consumer are willing and able to buy at each possible price. Do you understand now? So if you look at the material, you are going to see the demand schedule, the individual demand and market demand schedule. Do you understand? Then you are going to see the curve also. Then we have the types of demand. We have different types of demand. We have different types of demand that are commonly discussed in economics. So the first one is complementary demand. Second one is what? Competitive demand. The third one is composite demand. And the fourth one is derived demand. Do you get it? Any question before I proceed?
Please, can you explain, like in a layman word, can you explain more about the individual demand and market demand?
Okay.
Like, can you give an example?
Okay.
I try to understand, but it's messing with my head also.
Okay. Yeah. When you say individual demand, like it is the quantity of a goods or services which individual consumer is willing and able to buy at different price at different time. Do you understand? So what I mean by that is this. Do you get what I'm saying now? Let's say, for instance, if you go to the markets, you want to buy, let's say, Maggi. You have the list of items, or let's say you want to buy Maggi. Are you following what I'm saying now? So at that point, you are the individual because you are part of the economic agents, which I can simply say you are a consumer. Do you understand? So once you get to the market and you were able, you ask for the price of a commodity, and you know within yourself that it is something you can afford. And not only that, we're able to buy and pay. So from there, we can say that is individual demand. Do you get what I'm saying now? So the individual demand there is just trying to explain from the perspective of one person. Do you get what I'm saying now? So it's just a quantity of a goods or service which an individual consumer is willing and able to buy at different prices at different times. So while the market demand, on the other hand, is the sum of various quantity of goods and services which all consumers are willing and able to buy at each possible price. So there's a better example here. Let's say, for instance, now consider a market that consists of two buyers, A and B. Each buyer in the market is known as individual demand. Are you following? We have buyer A and buyer B. So each of them, if you are going to explain them differently, so we can say they are both individual demand. Do you understand that? So that means buyer A is an individual demand and buyer B is an individual demand. Are you following it? So why the sum of the two buyers A and B is called market demand? Are you following what I'm saying? Let's say, for instance, you and let's say, okay, everybody here. Let's say, for instance, now, you want to apply for CITN form. And let's say you went to the office and applied for the form. In that case, you are an individual demand. So let's say another example that, let's say different people are coming from different places to apply for that same form you've came to apply for. So at that point, since it's no longer a single person that is applying for that form, it becomes a what? Market demand. So market demand involves more than one. So when it is more than one, it's no longer individual again. Do you understand? So when it is two that are demanding for the same product, it becomes a what? A market demand. But if it's just one that is demanding for a particular product, we can say that it is individual demand. So have I explained now better?
Yes, thank you.
So I hope you are not going to forget that with the way I explained.
Market demand is like the total sum of people that comes to buy something.
Yes.
So individual is like one person that
Yes.
comes to buy something.
Yes.
At different price and at different time.
Yes. Okay. So when we say complementary, the first type of demand, we have the complementary demand. So complementary, another name for complementary demand is joint demand. And it refers to when two or more commodity are simultaneously demanded to provide a particular satisfaction. Do you understand now? So in other words, I can say in a name and definition, it is the demand for two commodity that are, for instance, now, if you are demanding, they are complementary. There's not how, okay, let's say cylinder, people no longer just can, be light or following. So if you are buying cylinder, you also cylinder and gas, the liquid there are both complementary. In fact, there's one example people used to cite when I was in secondary school, they would say bread and butter. Do you get what I'm saying now? So that means bread and butter, we can say, though it's an old example, an old form of an example of the complementary demand. Do you understand now? So that means it's an example of a demand that without one, you cannot use the other. So for you to use them, because you need both of them to function. It's just like when you finish making eba now, you now want to eat eba without soup. No. So that means you need that soup to complement the eba. Do you get what I'm saying now? Do you understand? So that's a very good example. Then an increase in, one thing you should understand about complementary demand is that an increase in part of one of the complementary will lead to a decrease in quantity demand for the other. So meaning there's a negative relationship among them when it comes to complementary demand, because if the price of bread increases, people will no longer buy butter again, because the reason why people are buying butter, let's say, butter can be used for a lot of stuff. People use it for cake, people use it for jollof rice, for different stuffs. But let's say, for instance, now, let's say a best relationship we can use here, let's say what's it called? Let's say gas and cylinder. There was a time that, if not because gas happens to be one of the major, stuff people buy now. So at a point in time when gas increase, the price of cylinder, people are no longer of gas. Are you following? So as we need to decrease in the price of its complements. So more reason why I said there's a negative relationship between, when it comes to complementary goods. Do you understand? Let's say, for instance, another example we can use now is that, if the price of stove increases, all things being equal, the quantity demand of kerosene will fall, because people that are using stove, people that are going to buy, there are a lot of people that are using stove, they need kerosene to power their stove. So, and if the price of stove increases, that means such people will stop buying kerosene. Do you understand now? So that means it will cause the demand for kerosene to what? To fall as a result of increase in the price of what? Stove. Do you get the illustration?
Yes.
So then we have competitive demand also. Competitive demand is also known as substitute demand. Another name for competitive is what? Substitute. So it refers to the demand for commodity that gives consumer almost the same satisfaction. Example of competitive demand are demand for Milo and Bonfita. Do you get what I'm saying? There was a time, I think, okay, let me just say this, like Milo and Bonfita, because if you look at Milo and Bonfita, they have the same taste, but there are some people that can still differentiate the taste. People like my daddy, if my daddy asks you to go and buy Milo and you buy Bonfita, and even if he wasn't there, he's not there when you are making the tea, he can differentiate how the taste of Milo looks like and how the taste of Bonfita looks like. Do you get what I'm saying now? So, but there are some people that cannot differentiate. So, meaning if the price of Milo increases, it will lead to the, increase in the what quantity demand of Bonfita. Unlike Nigeria, yeah, I don't know. In fact, sometimes it's as if most of those competitors, they used to have meeting. There was a time that people were buying Milo. Was it Milo or Bonfita for 18 naira? Both of them were 18 naira. So at some point in time, was it Bonfita? It increased to 100 naira. So when I went there, I was like, how much is Bonfita? They said 100 naira. How much is Milo? Milo is 18 naira. So I was able to buy Milo. So the following day when I got there, they stopped selling Milo 18 naira again. So they started selling both of them 100 naira. Can you imagine? Do you understand? So in a cases like that, in a case of developed country, there used to be a fight among the competitor. Why? Because one wants to sell than the other. So they will look for different strategies in order to chase off their competitor out of the market. But in the case of Nigeria, it's like they used to do meeting. They used to have meeting. Yeah, they would do meeting. Another competitive goods we have here is there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. Another one is who can remind me? Let's say Jago and Dano. They are different companies. Jago Milk and Dano Milk. Now, if the price of Jago increases, Dano will also increase its own price. Another competitive demand goods is what's it called? Dangote cement and Lafa cement. So now, if Dangote decides to increase its price of cement, Lafa will also follow suit. Do you understand? But it's not meant to be. So as Dangote is increasing his own, Lafa is meant to leave his own unchanged, so that people will stop buying Dangote and start buying Lafa. But that's the case of Nigeria. But in the case of developed country, there's always a competitor among the competitive, goods. There's always this, forms of competition. And if you look at it now, there's a direct relationship, meaning there's a positive relationship between the price and the quantity demand of two competitors. So meaning if the price of one increases, it's going to lead to the increase in the quantity demand of another. Am I Do you get the explanation? So then the next one is composite demand. So composite demand is the demand for commodity that can be used to produce two or more commodity. Example of composite demand are demand for cassava that can be used to produce garri and fufu. So that's composite demand. So composite demand can be used to produce two or more commodity, like flour now. Flour can be used to produce cake, bread, donuts, puff, egg roll. So that means flour is an example of what? Composite demand. Do you understand? And cassava is also an example of what? Composite demand. Then we have the derived demand. So derived demand is this one commodity. When one commodity is demanded as a result of demand for another. In other words, they are demanded for the purpose of producing other goods and services. You understand? So a good example of a derived demand is the demand for factor inputs such as labor and land and capital that are purposely demanded for the production of goods and services. So these are demand. Do you understand now? So also good example of a derived, demand. So that's it. Then we have the determinant of demand. I think I've tried to explain the other time. I said demand for goods and services are influenced by nature of demand, whether normal demand or abnormal demand. So the factors that determine the demand for particular commodity are based on the assumption of ceteris paribus. So all other factors remain constant. So there are about 5 main factors that influence individual demand for normal commodities. So the first one is the price of the commodity. So there's an inverse relationship when it comes to the price of commodity. So an increase in the price of one will lead to what? Decrease in the price of another. Then there's number 2, the price of related commodity. So that means example of the price of related commodity are substitute or complementary goods. I think I explained the substitute when trying to explain the types of demand. So for a case of substitute demand, substitute goods are goods that are you there? Are we there?
Yes.
Okay. So I said that the price of related commodity. So this influence on the factor on the quantity demand for a particular commodity depends on the nature of two commodity that are involved. So example is substitute or complementary. So if the goods are substitute demand, such as Milo and Bonfita, an increase in the price of Milo will lead to what? Increase in the demand for Bonfita. So meaning if price of Milo increases, people will stop demanding for Milo as a result of what? Increase in price of Milo, and start demanding for Bonfita. That is if the price of Bonfita remain constant as the price of Milo increases. Are you following? So people will stop demanding for Bonfita, and start demanding for what? Milo, as a result of what? Increase in the price of what? Bonfita. That's an example of what? Example of what? Are we there? Are we there? That's an example of substitutes. Are you following? Yes, substitutes. Such that increase in price of one will lead to decrease in price. So we need to increase. Please, can we move us? Are we there? So an increase in price of one will lead to increase in the demand for another. So in other words, there's a positive relationship between the price and demand for substitute goods. So for a case of substitute goods, there's a what? Positive relationship. But if the goods are complementary, let's say stove and kerosene, so an increase in the price of stove, all things being equal, the demand for kerosene will decrease. So thus, there is an inverse relationship between the price and the demand for complementary goods. Do you understand now? So then we have income of the consumer. So income of the consumer is another factor, because an increase in the money income of most consumer will lead to increase in demand for the consumer commodity, meaning there's a positive relationship between the income of the consumer and the what? And demand for a certain commodity. So if you want to explain that, we can come from two perspectives of goods, which is the normal goods and the inferior goods. What is normal goods? Normal goods are goods that its demand will increase as a result of what? Increasing income. So what is normal to you might not be normal to me. Do you get what I'm saying now? So I have some certain people, like some friends, if they increase their income, if their income increase today, they will consume more of pizza. Why? Because pizza is a normal goods to them. That means if they've been buying 2 pizza in a month, as a result of increase in income, they can start buying 4 or 5 pizza. Why? Because pizza happens to be a normal goods to them. But for someone who that pizza is not a normal goods, let's say an inferior goods. So if their income increases, do you understand now? So the demand for pizza is going to fall. So for a normal goods, there's a positive relationship between the income and the what? The income and the demand, the quantity demand of a certain commodity. But for an inferior goods, there's a negative relationship, meaning if Gary happens to be an inferior goods to you, for instance, me, I don't like Gary, health factor. I don't like Eba, health factor. Do you understand? So sometimes if I'm taking Eba or I'm taking Gary, it's basically because I don't have money. Do you get what I'm saying now? So that means in a case whereby if I have more money, that will you see me consuming Gary? Never. You will never see me moving close to Gary, because Gary has always been an inferior. Gary, beans, yeah, Eba, they are inferior goods. In fact, fried corn, smoked corn, they are inferior goods to me. So if my income increases, I will not move close to those type of commodity. Why? Because they are inferior. Do you understand? So let's say, for instance, me, I love yam and egg. I love rice and beans, especially with fried stew. So if my income increases, that means I'll consume those things. Okay, let's say I love amala too with gbegiri. I'll consume those things frequently as a result of what? Increase in income. So now you should be able to differentiate between the normal goods and the what? Inferior goods under the income of the consumer. So I said normal goods are goods that its demand will increase as a result of what? Increase in income. While inferior goods are goods that its demand will decrease as a result of what? Increase in income or otherwise. Do you understand now? Do you get what I'm saying now? So, or otherwise. Then we have the consumer taste or preference. So a change in the taste of a consumer in favor of a particular commodity will cause the demand for the commodity to increase at its price, while a change in taste against the commodity will reduce the demand for the what commodity. Like I was saying about my daddy, my daddy will never take any beverages that is different from what? Bonfita. Do you understand? Even if the price of Bonfita increases, daddy will still buy it. Why? Because of taste. There are some certain people that, because of the taste, the taste of a particular commodity, they will never change, even if the price of that commodity increases. I have a friend of mine that there's one sugar, cube sugar. Is it cube sugar or cube sugar? Something like that. The one that they normally put in the carton. Is it cube sugar? Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Like, okay.
Sugar.
What did you say?
Sugar.
Eh?
Sugar.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So this guy, we love that sugar. That means he cannot take any other sugar. Normal sugar, the one they used to put in the line, all those 15 naira, 20 naira sugar. This guy cannot buy it at all. Why? Because he is so much in love with that sugar. Even when the price of that sugar skyrocketed, this guy was still able to buy this sugar, because he used to be my roommate. So he will still struggle, find money. He'll be telling me, see, John, I cannot take all this sugar you're taking is jedi. I can't. Even when there was no money, this guy will look for money and buy this sugar. You get what I'm saying? So that means taste also can also be a factor or determinant. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, there was a time I went to buy some few clothes at boutique. So the guy was not trying to tell me, you have to slim fit it. The jeans look on you, the shirts look good on you. Just trying to slim fit it. I told the guys, I'm not buying a fitted clothes. If I can slim fit that clothes, I won't feel like wearing it again. Why? Because of preference. So if once I slim fit these clothes, and maybe the tailor now make a silly mistake, I won't care how much I bought that clothes. In fact, I've seen a situation whereby I will buy a cloth that is very costly, and due to a little mistake, I'll just abandon that clothes and I will not wear it again as a result of simple, small mistakes. Do you understand? There are a lot of clothes I've abandoned as a result of that. So most time when I'm going to market to buy clothes, I always look for something that will fit me, not something I would have to adjust. Even if I'm going to adjust it, I have a special tailor that do that, because I know once there's a little mistake, I will not be able to wear the clothes again. So preference and taste also are another major determinant that can affect what? It can affect, demand. Then the fifth one is the consumer expectation about future changes in price. I don't know, there was a time they said the price of petrol was going to, increase. A lot of people started buying petrol. They were buying it, they were keeping it. I remember there was a time also that they said the price of rice, when rice used to be 500 naira per Congo. I remember then 500 naira per Congo. Me and my roommates, we contributed money. We bought almost full bag of rice. Let's say full bag of rice. We bought one bag of rice, we bought one bag of beans, and we bought it and we kept it at home. So from there, when the price of rice just started jumping from 500, 600, the following week now 700, 2 weeks after 800, 900, we bought, I think when it was at around 700, we bought more. Still, when the price of rice now is now equivalent to 1,000, we started selling it for people, like selling it for people who want to buy. I can't forget that year. So meaning that, consumer expectation about future changes in price can also lead to what? Them demanding. So can also lead to them demanding more for certain commodity. Do you understand? Just like my lecturer used to say that, you can't say because of the price of salt is going to increase, you should not go and buy a bag of salt. That means even if the bag of salt the price of salt is going to fall, let's say from 1,000 to 15, and that does not mean you should not buy, you should use more than the normal quantity you've been using. Are you following what I'm saying now? So you can say because the bag of salt has decreased and you want to go and add, maybe you've been using 1 table of salt, 1 teaspoon of salt to cook 3 cups of rice. I say because salt is now, the price of salt has fallen, you now add 2. It's not possible. Do you get what I'm saying now? So these are the, some of the things you should consider. So then also, you can express the what's it called? The determinant of all those things I explained earlier. So these are the, so if you want to express, so the PX there is the what? The price of commodity. X, the PY is the price of related commodity. Y is the income. T is the taste or preference of consumer. And E is the what? Expectation. So there are a lot of some other stuff also that can affect the determinant. In fact, weather is part of it. At this season now, if you want to buy umbrella is very cost. If you want to buy umbrella at this period now, the price of umbrella is what? Is on the high side. I think someone was saying that the best time you can buy umbrella is when it is during sunny, when everywhere is sunny, during the sunny season. So if you are buying it during the rainy season, in fact, you might buy it times 4 of, the amount it used to be during, the dry season. Do you get what I'm saying now? So, all of those things also have, how they affect, demand. Then we have, so we also have exceptional demand. So exceptional demand, another name for exceptional demand is called abnormal demand. Sorry. abnormal demand. And the reason why it is abnormal demand is basically because its own curve is upward sloping, unlike the normal demand curve. The one I drew on the board is called what? Is called normal demand. So for the exceptional demand, their own is upward sloping. Do you understand? Because it is the demand for a commodity that does not obey the first law of demand. And what's the first law of demand? The first law of demand states that if the price of commodity increases, the quantity demand will fall, and every other thing being equal. But the exceptional demand is defined as a demand for commodity in which the quantity demand increases as the price of commodity increases. Do you understand? So there are cases like that, that as the income of, as the prices of, demand increases, the quantity will also what? Increase. There are goods like that. Let's say, for instance, God forbid, imagine someone who is sick and is in the hospital that needs, to drips and all of that. If they say the price of this drip has skyrocketed, whether he or she like it or not, is going to buy it. He or she will buy it. Am I making sense? He or she will buy it. Why? Because he or she does not have a choice. Are you following what I'm saying now? Oh. Are we there?
Yes.
Okay, so that's that about that. Then we have factors that bring about exceptional demand. And some of these factors is inferior goods. The first one is inferior goods. What is inferior goods? I define inferior goods as a goods that is demand decreases as a result of decrease in income. So do you understand now? So then we have under inferior goods, it is also referred to as giffen goods. Giffen goods is spelled as Giffen goods. And it is named after a British economist, Sir Robert Giffen. So according to Giffen, so the demand for cheap basic foodstuffs, such as potato in England, increases. So if the price rises and the demand will fall, are you following now? That means if the price rises and the demand will fall. So if the price of such cheap foodstuff decreases, this is because the low income earners will always reduce their purchases of relative more expensive goods. Do you understand now? So that means if the prices remain the same, consumer may cut their demand, but then if the prices of other expensive goods have risen. So example, given goods in Nigeria are gari in southern part of Nigeria and tuwo in the northern part of Nigeria. Do you understand now? So who are the people, a lot of people still believe that people that are consuming gari are people that does not have money, maybe people that are poor. In fact, in the northern part, I remember the last time I went there, they see as gari is common here, same way is tuwo common there. In fact, the tuwo is very cheap there. Tuwo, if you want to eat tuwo morning, night, afternoon, tuwo morning, night, afternoon, you don't have to spend, because people believe that the gari we are consuming is just like an extract. And same way they believe that tuwo is. So that means the price of tuwo is relatively cheap. Do you get? So then we have another one, which is ostentatious goods. So they are otherwise known as goods with snob appeal. So these are goods which are consumed not necessarily because of any quality, but because they give the consumer some prestige or air of superiority over those who did not use them. Example include what? Jewelries, expensive cars. Do you understand? Car is car. Some people will choose to go and buy expensive cars. Jewelries is jewelries, while some will still choose to buy what? The expensive one. Do you understand? Because they believe that, oh, if you are using an expensive car, you are fucking rich. You're a rich, person. You are very rich. For you to be driving a car worth of 200 million, people believe you are rich. Do you get what I'm saying now? I'm very rich. Imagine someone driving a car of 1.5 million naira. People will be like, oh, it's normal. But if you drive a car of 200 million, people will start respecting you. They will respect you. They will classify you as the most richest person in the community or in the environment. So there are different types of what ostentatious goods. So it's not basically because so people are just buying them in order to place them on this high, prestige. Then we have anticipation of future changes in price. So if people anticipate that price may fall further in near future, do you understand now? So they will postpone their purchase even though the current prices are lower than the prices used to be. So people can actually engage in that too as a result of they believe that the price may fall further in the near future. So they will postpone their purchase even though the current prices are lower than what the price used to be. Do you understand now? I remember there was a time that a guy wanted to buy, I think that was when they wanted to release iPhone 13. So this guy believes that, once they release iPhone 13, other iPhones that have been on ground since before. So as a result of that, he did not buy the phone. He waited. Still now, the phone he wanted to buy is still on the high side. So people sometimes, as a result of future hope, oh, let me just keep money. This thing will fall. This thing will rise. Let me just keep my money and all of that. So as a result of that. So then we have changes in the quantity demand and shift in demand. So we have different types. So changes in quantity demand refers to the movement, either upward or downward slope along the same demand curve due to changes in the price of the commodity. While shifts in demand, also called as changes in demand, refers to increase or decrease in the demand for a given commodity at the same price of the commodity, while other factors such as goods of price of related income and all of that influencing demand changes. So there's a difference between changes in what quantity demand and changes in demand. Do you understand that? So changes in quantity demand here is talking about the movements. Do you get what I'm saying now? So look at this now. If I'm going to explain this now, this is just a movement along the demand curve. So that means the demand is moving from this point. If I say this is point A, this can be point B. It's just like a movement. Do you understand now? So that means it's moving as a result of what? Reduction in the price of the commodity. So this here is just talking about the movement, which is changes in quantity demand. So, and if you are talking about changes in demand is talking about what? The shifts. It's talking about shifts. And there are a lot of factors here that can cause demand to shift. One of the examples, one of the factors are price of related goods, income also. So that means if an income increases, what happens? Demand can shift outward as a result of what? Increase in the income of a consumer. So that means if the price of relative commodity also fall, what happens? It can also cause it to shift. A lot of factors that can cause that. Then we move on to supply. Any question before we move on to supply?
Not at all.
You said?
Not at all, no question.
Okay, no question. All right, thank you. So for the law of demand, okay, let's go to the supply. Supply is the mirror image of demand in the market structure. So demand and supply represents the two sides of the market. So why the demand represent the activities of the buyer consumer, the supply represent the activities of the what? The sellers and the producer. Like I said, there's no how you talk about one, then you will talk about other. In fact, without demand, there's no supply. Without supply, there's no demand. So both of them, they go in line with another. So definition of demand, supply. Supply of the commodity is the quantity of that commodity which a producer is willing to take to the market for sales or at given price during a period of time. So supply in this context should not be misunderstood to mean the total output of a producer. So it is only that part of the total output taken to the market for sales at a ruling price at a period of time. So the supply also has its own demand. So, and there's a law of supply, and it states that the higher the price, the higher the what, the quantity supply, the lower the price, the lower the quantity supply. So which means that there is a positive relationship between the quantity supply and the price of the commodity. Do you understand now? So that which makes supply to be upward sloping. Do you get that now? So, I said that demand is downward sloping. Now, why is demand downward sloping? It is downward sloping as a result of what? The negative relationship between the price and the quantity demand of, let's say, of a commodity. But in the case of the supply, there's a possibility, meaning that if price falls, consumer is going to supply less, but if price rises, consumer will want to supply more. So then we have the supply schedule and supply curve. So for the supply schedule is a table showing the quantity of a commodity that a producer will offer for sales at each given price during a period of time. And a supply curve is graphically representation of the supply schedule, just like I said in demand, and it is what? It is upward sloping. Then we have the different types of supply. We have the joint supply, we have the competitive supply, then we have the composite supply. So what is joint supply? The type of supply that exists when two or more commodity are supplied together. Let's say, for instance, we have palm oil and palm kernel, beef and hides. An increase in the supply of one will cause supply of the other to increase, because they are supply together. Then we have another example or types of supply, which is competitive supply. So this is a situation whereby an increase in the supply of one commodity using the same factor inputs. For instance, the use of a fixed area of land for both cattle rearing and crop growing. An increase in the cattle rearing reduces the land available for crops cultivation and vice versa. So we have the composite supply also. So the supply of a commodity is composite, where it has more than one source of production. So food production of any kind is a composite supply. So for instance, supply of beverage, which consists of cocoa, and milk, sugar, and what, and other. So meaning in composite supply, so the supply of a commodity is composite when it has more than one source of production. Do you understand now? So then we have the determinants of supply also. We have the price of the product, we have cost of production, we have the price of other relative products, we have state of technology, government policy, natural resources, then producer futures expectation. So let's take them one by one. So for the price of the products, we have all things being equal. So that means the higher the price of the products, the more of the products the supplier or the producer will be willing to take to the market for sales, and vice versa. Then we have the cost of production too. So for the cost of production, the price of factors input constitute the total cost of production. So if the price of inputs increases, the cost of production will increase. Do you understand? Then we have the price of other related commodities. So for the price of other related commodity, the supplier tends to supply more of the product whose price is higher and lesser of the product whose price is lower. Then we have technology also can also improve in technology can also cause the price of the commodity to rise. Say government policy also on taxation and subsidy on particular product, for instance, will considerably affect the quantity supply of the product also. Then we have the natural causes. The natural causes such as weather, pest, earthquake, drought, and so all of those things can also lead to what? Increase in supply. Then producer future expectation. So if a producer have a future expectation on a given product, expect the price to be higher in the future time, they may hold back the supply at the current price in order to sell more at the expected high price. So we have exceptional supply curve also. So the exceptional supply curve refers to the abnormal supply curve. So under this, it means that the higher prices, lower quantity will be supplied. At a lower prices greater than quantity will be what? Supply. So the situation where supply is exceptional or abnormal includes in agriculture. So the supply of most of the agricultural products are price inelastic. So meaning the farmers supply more in times of general falling price, especially during the high floods. So this enabled them to reduce the losses caused by the flood and also to make up for losses income caused by falling prices. Then we have supply of labor also. So that means the more people earn, the more leisure they usually prefer. So if the wages or salary of the labor rises beyond a certain level, people will want to work for less hours. And this represents a fall in the supply of labor despite the rise in their what? In their wages. So this will also result to a backward bending supply curve of the labor as shown below. Do you get what I'm saying now? So then we also have a case of fixed stock. So for the supply of labor, the curve is like this. It's kind of bending. Let's say starting from here. So when it get there, so it's like this. So this place is kind of sharp. I'm coming. Okay, sorry, don't. So that's how it looks like. So then we have the fixed stock. So if the stock of the product is fixed, no matter the price, the supply cannot change. So thus the supply curve will be parallel to the price, as it's. Then we have the abnormal curve for a fixed stock. So for a fixed stock now, it's like this. Do you understand now? So whereby the idea is that supply is what is fixed. Some quantity supply is fixed. No matter whether the price increases or the price falls, supply will always be fixed. Do you get it now? Then we have changes in supply and changes in quantity supplied and changes in supply, just like same way I explained in a case of a demand. Like I said, a changes in supply coming. So for a case of changes in supply, changes in quantity supply is going to cause a movement along the supply. So this is how the curve looks like. Don't mind my drawing. So that meaning that if price increases, let's say this is P1 and this is P0. So that means this is an increase in price. Then we have quantity Q1. Then we have Q2. So in an increase in this will lead to increase in this. Do you get what I'm saying now? So that's that about that. Then we also have so that's a case of changes in quantity supply, but changes in supply will cause a movement along the what? Along the sorry about that, along the supply curve. So this is an example. So this is one and this is the other. So this is supposed to touch here. So you can see, okay, where's my user? Do you get what I'm saying now? So this is going to cause a movement along the, so you can see that it's actually so there's an increase in supply. So this is called changes in supply, and this is called changes in, let me write, changes in quantity supply. Why this is changes in supply. Do you get it now? So that's that about that. Then we have equilibrium and disequilibrium in demand and supply. So any question? Any question?
No, for now, because I have to go to the class again so I can understand properly.
What did you say?
I said no for now.
Okay.
Hope to send
So,
to the YouTube.
I can't hear you. What did you say?
Hope we can get the class on YouTube,
Yeah, you can. You should be able to get it on YouTube.
please, so I can go through it again and ask questions. Because
Okay.
like doing balu now.
It's a
It's
balu
too
balu.
much, kind of, sorry.
I understand. Okay, do you want to ask? Okay, like, is there a part you didn't get? Maybe I can just come back again.
I can't speak for now. That's why I asked if I can get the recorded version. So next class I can answer, okay, this and this and that. So let's just continue, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, ma'am. So that's that about that. Then we have equilibrium and disequilibrium in demand and supply. So when we say equilibrium in demand and supply, so equilibrium exists where quantity demand of a commodity is equals to the quantity supply of a commodity. So that's a point where equilibrium occurs. So a point where QD is equals to QS. So at this point, this is how the graph looks like. It's just like scissors. Like we used to call it scissors. So the point where both of them intercept is what we call the equilibrium. So at this point here, this is our demand, and this is our what? Supply. So at this point, this is equilibrium quantity. Star, this is star. Then this is equilibrium price. Do you get it now? So I think let's do it this way. This requires, thorough explanation. So we are going to stop the class here because I can feel that some of us, we probably need to go through what we've talked about so far, because under these concepts here, we basically need to understand it. So since you said there's no question, then I can't really say where exactly I need to re-explain. So let me just give us the grace to go through whatever stuff we've discussed today. Then our subsequent class, we can start from here. Is that fine by us?
Somebody asked a question. Said she didn't get the example for the equilibrium.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. Look at this now. I said equilibrium is a point where your quantity demand is equals to quantity supply. So we normally call it scissors. Scissors is like this. Do you understand now? Scissors is like this. So at this point here, the points where both of them intersect, we normally call it equilibrium points. You understand? The points where demand and supply intersect is called the equilibrium points. Are you following? So, and at this point here, we have our equilibrium quantity, and here we have the equilibrium price. So here is our demand, and here is our supply. Do you understand? I said supply is upward sloping, while demand is what? Downward sloping. Do you understand? So the point where both of them intercept, just like cross, when you see cross like this, so that point where they intercept, this point here is what we call the equilibrium points. Do we get it? Do we get it?
Yeah, it's okay now. It's okay.
Don't worry, I will solve more questions then interpret more. So should we stop here?
Well,
So let's stop here.
we
So
can. I said we can.
Okay. So in our subsequent class, so we are going to start from here. So please take time to go through whatever we've done today. Then we are going to